Beneath the sparkling waves of the ocean lies a world full of beauty and hidden dangers, attracting those who dare to dive. In two thrilling stories of freediving, one highly experienced diver explores the depths of the Blue Hole, while another goes into the dark caves of Maui. As they dive deeper into the unknown without any equipment, both are tested in their bravery and skill. What secrets and risks will they uncover in the mysterious waters below? Cave diving and freediving are different sports. Freediving, also called breath-hold diving, is when divers go underwater without using tanks. Instead, they just hold their breath while exploring the ocean. They wear simple gear, like fins and a mask, which helps them move more easily in the water. To dive safely, freedivers start by taking deep breaths to fill their lungs. They practice relaxing their bodies, which helps them hold their breath longer. When they dive, they use their fins to swim smoothly and save energy. Many divers also learn to equalize the pressure in their ears as they go deeper. This sport has drawn many divers, including Stephen Keenan, a 39-year-old man from near Dublin, Ireland. He found his passion for freediving while on vacation in Dahab in 2009. He loved the experience so much that he chose to move there and commit himself to the sport. Stephen Keenan was an experienced freediving instructor. He had a background in the sport and he had achieved notable depths in his dives. As a freediver, he held relevant certifications that demonstrated his expertise and safety training. As an instructor, Stephen Keenan trained Alessia Zecchini, who came to Dahab to prepare for the World Championship in Roatan. Alessia wanted to cross the arch without using fins, which is a risky challenge because of the deep water, strong currents, and the chance of blacking out. Divers take on these challenges to push their limits and achieve personal goals. Knowing the dangers, Stephen put together a team that included Lily Crespi and other skilled instructors and experienced freedivers from Dahab Freedivers to support and keep Alessia safe during her dive. They all plan to do this record-breaking freedive in the Blue Hole, which is located off the coast of Dahab, Egypt, and is renowned among freedivers for its stunning underwater beauty and challenging conditions. This natural sinkhole, with depths reaching up to 130 meters, attracts divers from all around the world who seek to experience its unique marine life and dramatic underwater formations. The allure of the Blue Hole lies not only in its breathtaking scenery, but also in the thrill of diving into such a deep and potentially dangerous environment, making it a popular sport for those looking to push past their limits. Since its discovery, thousands of divers have dived into the Blue Hole, with many attempting to break records in freediving. One of the notable achievements was the attempt to cross the Arch, which lies at a depth of approximately 56 meters. This feat requires immense skill and training, and divers like Alessia aim to push these limits and explore the depths. On July 22, 2017, Alessia Zecchini geared up for an important dive into the Blue Hole, with two technical divers on hand to film her journey beneath the arch. Their goal was to document this daring feat for a documentary that was focused on the captivating yet perilous world of freediving. The presence of the technical divers was crucial not only for safety, but also for providing an in-depth look at the complexities of such a challenging dive, making it a compelling story worth sharing. Stephen had told Alessia that the technical divers would be positioned on her left side, so she was instructed to swim close to the reef wall on her right in order to prevent any chance of bumping into them. Alessia carefully followed these instructions, keeping herself near the reef as she prepared for her dive. The excitement of the moment and the unfamiliar surroundings made it hard for her to realize that she had already moved past the arch. She was determined to stay close to the reef, believing that she was still on the right path. As Alessia swam, she began to drift slightly to the right, moving away from the rope that was positioned in the center, or slightly to her left. The arch that she was aiming for was located at a depth of approximately 164 to 180 feet. Due to this depth, Alessia experienced negative buoyancy, which meant that she was heavier than the water around her and so naturally tended to sink. Because of this, she found herself swimming faster than she had practiced during her training sessions in the bay. This increased speed caused her to pass through the arch sooner than she had anticipated. The combination of the unintentional shift in direction and the effects of negative buoyancy altered her dive experience significantly. As she continued, Alessia focused on maintaining her technique, but the unexpected changes made it difficult for her to stay on course. Stephen was the first safety diver for the dive, a very important role. To keep everyone safe, they set up a buoy with a rope at the exit point of the arch. This buoy was placed in the middle of the exit to help guide Alessia as she swam through. Stephen's job was to be at the buoy, ready to help before Alessia came out of the arch. Having a safety diver and a buoy is a common practice in freediving and other underwater activities. This setup gives a clear point for the diver to follow, especially in tricky or new areas. The buoy acts as a marker, helping divers know where they are and preventing them from getting lost. Once they reach the surface, Stephen would tug on the rope a couple of times to signal Lily, who was the second safety diver at 82 feet below. This signal was important for keeping everyone informed about the dive status. There was also a third safety diver positioned between 49 and 66 feet, which added extra safety to the dive. Lily's main job was to count down for Stephen's dive with variable weight. This countdown helped Stephen prepare for his descent by letting him know when to go. The team had planned everything carefully to make sure that the dive was safe and well organized. Each diver had a specific role, and clear communication was key to a successful dive. As Lily started the countdown for Stephen's dive, he suddenly requested an additional 10 seconds. This caught her off guard, as it was unusual for experienced cave divers to ask for extra time at such a crucial moment. Typically, divers are very well prepared and stick to their planned countdowns without hesitation. However, understanding the importance of Stephen's mental and physical readiness, she agreed to his request without questioning it. When the countdown ended, Stephen jumped into the water, but he had added 10 extra seconds, which had made him late. By the time that he had reached the bottom, he saw that Alessia had already swum far away from the safety rope. Without thinking twice, he swam down quickly to catch up with her. Knowing that going back to the rope would waste time, Stephen decided that it was better to keep going right there in the open water. Alessia didn't have fins on, so she swam slowly but steadily, using her arms to pull herself through the water. Stephen, with his fins, moved easily behind her, matching her pace. At a depth of 131 feet, a photographer waited to document the duo's ascent. As she looked through her lens, she noticed that something was off during the early stages of their climb. Alessia swam independently, while Stephen stayed close to her, ready to lend support as they neared the surface. Alessia, though, was struggling with some level of oxygen deprivation, which made the ascent more challenging. The strong underwater current was also a factor, pushing them off course as they swam upward. Instead of heading directly to the exit point of the arch, they found themselves drifting towards the saddle, a location further away than what they had planned. The photographer swam quickly when she saw Alessia and Stephen surfacing more than 200 feet away from the buoy. She shouted to them from a distance. At first, she thought that Alessia was panicking from the depths of freediving, struggling to regain her composure. When Alessia's eyes opened, the photographer felt a sense of relief. But then suddenly she noticed that Alessia looked confused and disoriented. As Alessia began to look around for Stephen, she saw him floating face down in the water, motionless. She couldn't believe what she saw, and within seconds she swam over to him and flipped him over. Her heart was racing as she was trying to understand what to do next. As soon as one of the safety divers arrived, they started giving rescue breaths to Stephen. They quickly began towing him toward the exit. 2 other safety divers joined them, bringing a buoy with an oxygen tank to help. Despite their best efforts, they could not revive Stephen. They rushed him to the hospital, but sadly he was pronounced dead shortly after getting there. Alessia and the team were devastated by the loss of Stephen, their dedicated instructor. A small delay, despite his years of experience and meticulous planning, had led to a tragic outcome. The beauty of the blue hole now carried a heavy sorrow, reminding them of the risks inherent in this deadly sport. Diving without proper gear has always proven to be dangerous. But this was not the only incident where free diving led to tragedy. In this next story, a group of friends thought that they would only be gone for 4 seconds. Instead, their quick dive ended in a heartbreaking accident that changed everything. Gregory Wilhelm and his 3 friends, drawn together by their love of the outdoors, all came to the breathtaking island of Maui. They were excited to explore the beauty of Waianapanapa State Park, where they had heard about the stunning freshwater caves. Waianapanapa State Park is a beautiful place located along the famous Road to Hana in Maui, Hawaii. It is known for its stunning black sand beach. The park has amazing views of cliffs, sea arches, and blowholes, making it a great spot for photos and enjoying nature. The park is also famous for its interesting caves, which are part of Hawaii's history. These freshwater caves were formed by lava and are filled with clear pools of water. Visitors can explore these caves and learn about the history behind the legend of Princess Popoalea, who used to hide there. This adds a special story to the park, making it even more intriguing and attracting many tourists. Among these explorers was George, who was eager to uncover the secrets of this beautiful place. Gregory Wilhelm, a 33-year-old from Nevada, California, was a big fan of the outdoors. He enjoyed camping in different national parks, hiking on beautiful trails, and exploring nature. From the tall redwoods to the calm beaches, Gregory was always ready for adventure. In addition to hiking, Gregory had a special interest in caves. He spent many weekends exploring the fascinating worlds that are hidden underground. One of his favorite places was Point Reyes National Seashore in California, where he explored the nearby Tamales Bay caves. He loved seeing the glowing algae in the dark waters. Gregory also joined local caving clubs, where he met other people who shared his passion for exploring caves and discovering the wonders of the underground. He believed in protecting these fragile environments for everyone to enjoy in the future. This love for adventure ultimately took Gregory to Waianapanapa State Park on Sunday afternoon, January 29, 2017. He was with 3 friends exploring the beautiful Hana area on the island of Maui. They were enjoying swimming in the clear water and exploring the park's natural beauty. However, at one point, they decided to check out the nearby caves, as the stories that they had heard made them interested, and they wanted to see what was inside. As the group of friends arrived at the cave, they found the entrance filled with cold water. 2 of the friends, both female, decided to stay at the entrance while Gregory and his friend waded in, enjoying the refreshing water. However, Gregory soon felt adventurous, and he decided to dive deeper into the cave, eager to explore what lay ahead. To light their way, Gregory used his phone as a flashlight, putting it into a Ziploc bag in order to keep it safe from the water. Now, while this seemed like a clever idea, it was not a good choice to enter the cave without proper equipment. Caves can have hidden dangers, including strong currents, tight spaces, and low oxygen levels. Without the right gear, like oxygen tanks or helmets, they're putting themselves at risk. A regular flashlight might provide some light, but it can't compare to the powerful lights that are used by scuba divers. Diving lights are specifically designed to cut through murky water and illuminate dark underwater environments, often reaching distances of up to 300 feet or more. In contrast, Gregory's phone flashlight could barely shine 10 feet ahead. Diver lights are much brighter and more durable, ensuring safety in challenging conditions. After going just a little way into the cave, they quickly noticed that things were darker than they thought. The water levels also differed in depth because of hidden currents and the way that the cave was shaped, causing the water to rise suddenly in some areas. The walls of the Waianapanapa caves are usually made of special minerals that absorb light, making it very hard to see. Moreover, in caves like these, even a small light could go out completely, leaving one lost in total darkness. Now, when the water reached their waists, they came across a large rock blocking their path. Beneath the rock was a very deep area. Since they didn't have the right equipment in order to stay underwater for long, Gregory decided to just dive further down for just a minute and then come back up. At this point, his friend had to follow him because he was the only one with a phone to shine the light. Once they were completely underwater, Gregory's friend got scared and decided to swim back up without telling him, because Gregory was too eager to explore and he had already gone too far ahead. Gregory soon realized that he needed air and he decided to swim back. But when he turned around, he saw only darkness. Panic filled him as he searched wildly for a way out. After a few moments, he remembered that many caves have air pockets, and he knew that the entrance wasn't too far away. However, with the weak light from his phone flickering, he struggled to see where to go. If Gregory had been an experienced diver, he would have known more about the Waianapanapa Cave structure. These caves are made up of different chambers and narrow tunnels, all created by volcanic activity. Some areas are deep, while others are shallow, which can make exploring tricky. Experienced divers know how to find air pockets in the caves where they can breathe safely. Understanding the cave's layout would have helped Gregory move more easily and stay safe while enjoying the beautiful rock formations. At the entrance, Gregory's friend waited anxiously at the spot where they had first dived into the water. but there was no sign of Gregory. As time passed, the two other female friends began to worry and decided to look by the entrance. Suddenly, they saw Gregory's friend panicking, desperately trying to find something in the water. They couldn't believe it when he started to explain how quickly Gregory had disappeared underwater. They tried to scream for help, but no one was around in the jungle. In that moment of panic, Gregory's friend decided to jump back in and try to find him. He couldn't see anything at first, but as he dove down for the third time, he saw a glimmering light. When he swam deeper and he reached the source of the light, he realized that it was Gregory's phone flashlight. He began to lose hope and thought, if Gregory's phone's here, then where could he be? He searched frantically around him, but he couldn't find anything. The two female friends quickly tried to contact emergency services, but there was no sign of a network. In this remote jungle, there were a few tiny hotels, but overall, it was not a place with many services, making it a difficult situation for them in order to find help. The area also lacked a hospital or an emergency room, which heightened their sense of urgency. Although there was a small clinic, it could only provide limited help. In the event of a serious emergency, the best they could do was arrange for transport across the island to reach the nearest hospital. Somehow, they arranged to be able to get help from the Hana Fire Department. The fire department acted fast and a rescue crew was sent out. When the team finally found Gregory, they sadly discovered his body floating 75 feet deep in the cave. Just 20 feet away, they found an empty air pocket where Gregory and his friend had lost sight of each other. It is believed that a rock may have struck Gregory, pulling him deeper into the cave. This tragic event took the life of a brave man, leaving deep sadness in the hearts of those who loved him. Stephen Keenan and Gregory Wilhelm were not even in their 40s when they both tragically lost their lives due to freediving. The cave known as Harwood's Hole captivated explorers from the moment they first peered into its shadowy depths. Spelunkers wagered it could be the deepest cave in New Zealand. Scientists and cavers gathered from far and wide to figure out how to enter this strange vertical chasm in the earth. Peter Lambert spearheaded the mission to explore Harwood's Hole, until his ambition became his demise. Join us as we venture into the depths of this cave and uncover one of the earliest tragedies in the history of New Zealand caving. Harwood's Hole Cave is a huge void in the earth below the Abel Tasman National Park on the South Island of New Zealand. The park, named for the first European explorer to discover New Zealand, covers a decent area of 91.5 square miles of lush forest-covered hills, sandy beaches, waterfalls, and rope bridges. The bulk of the park's terrain is comprised of the Takaka Hill Range. These mountainous hills were used to film multiple locations in the Lord of the Rings movies, including the Chetwood Forest near the Shire and Dimrail Dale beyond the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. These hills are made from a prized mineral, crystallized limestone, otherwise known as marble. In the past, quarries blasted apart sections of the rocky terrain to mine the marble and limestone, but now Takaka Hill is part of the park's nature preserve. The vast limestone deposits in the region made the perfect place for caves to form. Instead of long caves slowly winding downward, the caves of Takaka Hill form a patchwork of sinkholes that cut down into the hills. These deep pits feed the Takaka River that snakes through the caves below, and their entrances have been traps for unsuspecting animals for thousands of years. Below these caves, explorers found large deposits of perfectly preserved moa bones and other strange oddities. 30 of New Zealand's deepest caves tunnel down below Takaka Hill, including Harwood's. The Harwood Pit is over 1,000 feet deep with a massive 160-foot opening. Harwood's was first uncovered by a farmer named Henry Harwood, who owned land on the Takaka Hill Range. Once he unearthed the cave, Henry was too frightened to explore it. But a man named Peter Lambert was ready for the challenge. Roughly 10 years before the first Harwood expedition, Peter's relative, Henry Lambert, started the New Zealand Speleological Society, so caving was in Peter's blood. In 1957, Peter Lambert and his fellow cavers from the North Island went across the bay to explore new caves. They met the farmers in the area, and the farmers brought the spelunkers to Harwood's Cave. This sparked a chain of events that was ultimately responsible for creating the caving community in New Zealand. In 1958, a year after cavers first heard of Harwoods, a team of cavers, including Dave Kershaw, Catherine Donald, Malcolm Laird, and Peter Lambert, undertook the first exploration of the cave. It was Christmas Day, but these young adults wanted a world-first experience instead of presents. As they peered down into the cave, they realized the walls weren't perfectly straight. Instead, the cave had multiple outcroppings, almost like the neck of a vase. They couldn't simply rig ropes because technology was lacking back then. The single rope technique, or SRT, had only recently been developed by climbers exploring the Alps. To make SRT work, cavers needed new inventions like assisted braking descending devices such as the Petzl Stop, low stretch mantle ropes, new harnesses, and new climbing techniques like the frog sit-stand climb. Ladders were also a no-go. They were dangerous beyond 200 feet, and it was clear that this cave was much deeper. The cavers used their ingenuity to overcome Harwood's strange formations. French caver Pierre Lebon crafted his own winch to deal with similar caves in different areas. Pierre's design worked for a while, and many cavers, including Lambert's team, based their own winches off his design. However, Pierre's winch failed him in the Saint-Nathan cave and he fell to his death. New Zealand caver and engineer Richard Scott created a new winch so his team could explore Harwood's Hole cave. On the day of the adventure, the team clambered around the entrance of the cave. One of the cavers threw a rock down the mouth of the cave. They waited. It took almost 10 seconds for the stone's dry thud to bounce back up the cave. It was a long way down. Dave Kershaw attached a parachute harness to his back, attached it onto the load hook of the winch, and his friends lowered him down into the cave. The crank slowly turned the winch's drum, and the looped cable unraveled with a rusty creak as Dave inched down into the darkness. The boys above shouted down to the brave caver, but their voices grew thin as the cave went deeper into the unknown. After an eternity of tension, the first caver touched ground in Harwood's cave. This first exploration only went 600 feet down to the first ledge, but it was still a monumental achievement. The next day, Malcolm, Catherine, and Peter Lambert rode the winch down into the darkness. They found a chamber so massive that their primitive headlamps couldn't even reach the walls from one side to the next. As they walked, the floor became a steep ramp descending further down, and it was riddled with pebbles. One slip could dislodge an avalanche of stone and send the cavers sliding to their doom. No matter how much preparation cavers make, a cave-in or rock slide is practically unstoppable. Cavers can only suppress their fears and ignore the ever-present danger. They continued along a horizontal portion of the cave until they reached an underground lake. On this rocky shore, enclosed in cold stone, Lambert and his crew camped for the night. After they got some shut-eye, they climbed back to the first haven and asked the two cavers above ground to send a log down with the winch. They heaved the wood down the steep slope and over to the lake for use as a rudimentary bridge. The room beyond was a gorgeous display of speleoforms, rimstone pools, and a feature known as the Twin Waterfalls. After exploring more passages, they reached a sump, a flooded U-shaped tunnel. Back then, cave diving was also in its infancy, and the team wasn't ready to risk their lives in the unknown depths of the flooded section. With no way to travel further, Lambert's team concluded their first exploration into Harwood's Hole cave. The next year, Lambert would return to determine if the cave had any connections to other cave systems or if it had other entrances. Word spread like wildfire about the wonders of Harwood, and this time, 21 cavers came to the expedition. On the day of the fated expedition, they once again slowly lowered one another down the pit. To determine new routes or connections, they had to trace the flow of the subterranean river. They used fluorescein dye at the stream near the sump. A second team found the dye in a resurgence above ground. and then they used dynamite to blow open the above-ground creek. This second team of cavers lit the flames of their carbide lanterns and crawled into the darkness. After a long trek, they saw familiar lights ahead. They found the connection they were looking for and emerged near the first campground called the Boudoir. The team named this new region the Starlight Cave, and it proved Harwood was a full system of caves. This second expedition explored nearly 3,000 feet of additional side passages and squirming tunnels in Harwoods. With their mission complete, the cavers signaled to the team at the winch, but they were still excited from their discovery. One by one, they were lifted from the cave. Remember, this winch was initially designed for the first mission to explore Harwoods. There were only 5 cavers for that trip, and they only planned to use it for a few days. But the team kept using it for future expeditions, including this one. The sheer number of cavers in this second expedition put significant strain on the device. The clunky motor that helped crank the winch began puttering with plumes of thick exhaust as it lifted the cavers from the abyss. The winch drum squeaked an ear-piercing sound, causing some of the cavers to wince and duck away from the noise, but when they looked back, the winch was fine. It kept slowly turning and raising the cavers up the hole. They regularly checked the cable for any signs of damage, and after the first caving winch pioneer died, they also kept tabs on the harnesses and the hooks that held the harness and the cable together. They did everything by the book, but they forgot one important detail. As nightfall fell over the camp, the team decided to stay for 2 more days. They put the machine and the bodies to work crawling, climbing, and digging through the stone and mud. After the 2-day extension was finished, the cavers were ready to wrap up their adventure. One by one, the cavers took the slow ride up the pothole. Peter Reed and Peter Diamond were up top ready to help the next caver up the final cliff. They would keep an eye on the ascending cavers to ensure that nothing went wrong. Down below, Les Kermode was up next. Now, no one's exactly sure why, but Peter Lampert approached Kermode just moments before he was about to signal for the team to begin lifting him out. Kermode was hooked up and ready to go, but Lampert asked to switch with him. Kermode respected Lambert's seniority. Without Lambert's team, none of them would be there making history. Kermode stepped back and traded places with Lambert. Lambert attached his harness to the winch, and the machine's squeaky wheels began to turn. Lampert was a few hundred feet off the ground when disaster struck. The winch had been anchored to the rock in multiple points with large bolts and screws. Despite the machine working outside of its intended operating conditions, it performed just fine. However, the vibrations of the winch and its roaring motor channeled through the mounting hardware into the anchors and into the weathered rock. The continuous shaking of the motor and the device caused massive boulders to dislodge from the cliff at the Harwood's Hole entrance. It happened so fast, none of the ledge team could do anything to stop the onslaught. Lampert heard the sounds and looked up, but he was hanging helplessly above the abyss. The boulders tumbled down into the cave and impacted him. The team below ground barely had time to react. They heard the sounds, and they had only a few split seconds to duck out of the way. After the rock slide settled down, they returned to the beam of light streaming down overhead as Lampert's blood dripped onto their helmets from above. The team called to Lampert, but he had no response. His limbs were limp in his harness, and his head hung low as the winch continued its slow, methodical ascent. The team tried to crank the speed of the winch faster, desperately pulling Lampert to the ledge. After what felt like forever, the team got Lampert onto the ledge. He was still unconscious. His injuries were gruesome, but he was alive. The cavers tended to him as best as they could with their outdated medical training and technology. Since caving was just beginning in New Zealand, there was no on-call rescue team to save him. Some of the cavers ran to get help as fast as they could. Help arrived, but not in time. Peter Lampert, the pioneer who ignited the caving community's passion, died from the blunt force trauma of the rock slide. Down near the campsite, the cavers who were still inside the vertical cave piled rocks like the humans of ancient times. They built a cairn in Lambert's honor, which is still there today. Since the winch was unsafe, they took the long trek through the new connection in starlight. The cavers completed the shrine by placing Lambert's helmet on top of the cairn, and they exited the Harwood's whole cave to rejoin the world above ground. His team was determined to make sure that Lambert didn't die in vain. They returned and proved that Harwood's Hole was the deepest cave in the country, dethroning the previous record holder.